This chapter begins where the cowherd women are talking to Jasoda, and they're saying, Jasoda, is the rope tight? Do you think Krishna can get free? And is the mortar heavy? And Jasoda said, yes, the rope is tight, and the mortar is tight, and the mortar is heavy. And then the gopis are saying, are you sure? Are you sure it's tight? And you sure he can't get free? Are you positive? She said, yes, the rope is very tight, and he can't get free. And then she said, and the cowherd boys are here, so they'll watch him. So they'll protect Krishna. So Jasoda had to leave because she had to clean up all the mess that Krishna made. So that's the reason she tied Krishna up. She wanted to make sure he wouldn't do any more mischief. You understand mischief? Mischief is what your kids do. What your children do when you're not looking is mischief. Naughty. You understand naughty? Naughty, mischief. What children do. M-I-S-C-H-I-E-F. Mischief. Mischievous. So, Hare Krishna. So Mother Yasoda told Krishna, you've done something wrong. You're being tied here. And he's saying, well, what do I do? I'm just tied here. He said, I want to get myself free. And she said, no, you're tied here. And she was sarcastic. She said, get yourself free if you want. If you think you can. Knowing that he can't, if you think you can try to become free, but... And he remembered that. She said, oh, I should try to become free. So he's pulling the rope. He's trying to see if it's strong. He's pulling to see how heavy the mortar is. And his friends are around. But, of course, he had a plan. So he went from his childhood anger, and he saw the trees, and he remembered, oh, I'm supposed to deliver these trees. He went. Different Shaktis work on Krishna. So one Shakti is working on, he's just an angry kid. Another Shakti comes and he remembers, oh, these trees. That's Nalakuvera, Manigriva, I have to save them. So he's going through these different emotions. And then he told his coward friends, he said, you have to... He had his coward friends go away. Because he was going to do some mischief, and he didn't want them making noise, because Mother Yasoda would hear the noise. So he had them go away. And then, as I said yesterday, he created a potency where they couldn't come closer. And he would go like this. He said, whatever he would do, he'd be like this, don't make any noise. Because Mother Yasoda was going away. She had Krishna tied up, so she thought everything is safe. Krishna's tied up. And now we can go clean up the mess, and then I'll come back, and then I'll untie Krishna. So it wasn't exactly a punishment, a full punishment. It was just tied up long enough that she could clean up, and then she could come back. So Krishna, we're tying you up. You can't do any more mischief like that. That's the idea. Okay? So, this is what she said. My dear boy, your whimsical conduct has now come to an end. If you think you are so clever, then free yourself of these ropes. Go ahead. pull the mortar behind you and go wherever you like. So, you understand the word sarcastic? She's being sarcastic. Yeah, I've got you tied up, you can't move. If you think you can move, try. See what happens. Go for it. Now, as you know the story, Krishna did not untie himself, right? He pulled the mortar, but he never untied himself. Why? Does anybody know why? He could have untied himself, but he didn't.
Because only Mother Yashoda could do it. She tied him, and she could, with the Mother Lila, she could untie him again.
Close. Because Krishna was thinking, these are not ropes, but this is Mother Yasoda's love that I'm tied, that's tied me, so why would I untie the love? So it's similar, what you're saying, right? Why would I untie the love? This is her love. So to untie it doesn't make sense, because I'm bound by love, so I can't. So there was a potency. And then another potency came, and then he became angry again. So he was on the ground, he was just like punching the ground, really angry. So he goes through these different emotions. Love of Yasoda, then the anger of a child. And he's just on the ground, punching the ground. He's really mad. But then he sees the trees. Of course, he's seen the trees before, because these trees are in the courtyard 20,000 years. And they were seeing Krishna's pastimes. Before this, in the courtyard, obviously, they were seeing Krishna's pastimes. So they were getting purified, obviously. And Krishna had seen the trees, but at this point, now he remembers. He's going through different emotions of anger, affection for his mother, and then this Aishvarya Shakti comes, the Shakti of God, then he remembers, oh, Narada Muni said, these trees will be benedicted by me, so I have to do that. So now that's his meditation. And then he starts thinking, Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they were cursed to stand as trees, so they couldn't get out of that. They just stood there as trees. He said, but I'm bound by a rope, so I'm just like them. What's the difference between me and them? So now Krishna is lamenting, like in his anger. I'm just like these two demigods. They're bound by trees, I'm bound by rope. I'm in a similar situation. So, you see what's happening? It's like there's two energies working. One energy that I'm this unfortunate boy who's been tied up by my mother. The other energy, the omniscient Lord, who remembers Narada Muni's curse and his obligation to fulfill Narada Muni's curse, to deliver them. So he's going back through these different thoughts, and these different thoughts are energies that are working on him. Different energies to create the pastime. Because both things have to go on simultaneously. He has to remember that he's supposed to deliver Nalakuvera and Manigriva, and then he's also in this child Lila with Yasoda. You understand? TK? Yes? No? Maybe? A little bit, yeah. So, now we're going to learn something about Nalakuvera and Manigriva. And as you know, they were demigods. And they actually earned the position of demigods. They weren't originally demigods, but they worshipped Lord Shiva, and their whole family got elevated to the position of demigods. So this is what you call in the West nouveau riche, the new rich. You know, you understand new rich? It's like you weren't raised rich, but somehow or other, through some business or whatever, you become rich. So they got upgraded. As ordinary beings, worship Lord Shiva, they got upgraded to demigods. So this sort of explains, you might think, as demigods, why would they end up in Mount Kailash in the Mandakini Ganga, which is a sacred river, sporting with apsaras. Because they were the nouveau riche, because they no longer, now they didn't have to deal with ordinary women, they had apsaras. So this was like a real upgrade, right? So you could understand, they were a bit bewildered by it. And they had become extremely wealthy, and so with wealth comes pride. So they were very proud, and this whole story now is about the intoxication of their pride. You know, if you're beautiful, if you have a lot of money, very easily you become proud, right? Like Vasudeva Datta. Vasudeva Datta had leprosy. Lord Chaitanya embraced him, and he became very beautiful. And he was upset. He said, now people will think I'm beautiful, and then I'll become proud. Like, who in the world wouldn't want to be beautiful, right? If I said, if I embraced you, I could make you as beautiful as a demigod. You'd say, okay, let's go. Let's do it, you know. It's that easy? Okay. Everyone would do it. But a devotee might think, or a pure devotee might think, if I'm beautiful, then people will compliment me, they'll honor me, they'll worship me. And worse, which is a paradox, the opposite sex will be attracted to me, which is what everybody wants. But that becomes an obstacle for a devotee. So they think, no, better I stay the way I am. You know, just look like everybody else, not exceptionally beautiful. So this is how they ended up in this situation. They were devotees of Lord Shiva, and so they had access to Mount Kailash, and this is a heavenly place. And, you know, they had, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So their father's Kuvera, and they're in this position, and there they are. So that's a little history on them. You could imagine if you were the son of Kuvera, you might be a little proud, right? And also you have a lot of money. And it also explains that as the sons of Kuvera, you might think, well, what were they doing hanging out during the day? Didn't they have anything better to do? No, they didn't, because they didn't have to work. So that was basically their program, just enjoying. And it's also interesting that you find that the demigods, they understand Krishna, they honor Krishna, but there's also this desire to enjoy. And I would imagine that if you go to the heavenly planet, even if your desire to enjoy is not so strong, when you get up there, it will get stronger, because there's more to enjoy. You ever feel like that? You're not hungry, but you go by the Mahastand and you see or smell something, and it's your favorite, and you go over there and you're buying it, and you're talking to yourself, say, why am I buying this? I'm not even hungry, right? So you could imagine how difficult it might be to live on the heavenly planets. Even you're a devotee, even you know, because what you know and what you feel are two different things. If you know I shouldn't do this, but you feel like doing it, you'll act, generally, most people will act with their feelings. Now, the other thing that Prabhupada explained is, if you take the most beautiful men or women on this planet, their beauty is a fraction of the beauty of the residents of the heavenly planets. And we don't understand that beauty. But it's a beauty in which your body is fragrant, your skin is different. You want nice skin, There's this, it's not like our leathery skin, it's different. Everything's different. It's so beautiful. And the duration of life is so long, there's no concept of death. You live too long. So to think about death, it's out of your mind, and it's out of your mind because nobody looks old. So here on the earth, we're reminded of death. Who reminds us of death? Old people. Because the older you get, the more you look like you're dying. and if you're actually really old, then we look at you and you think, I don't know if I'm going to see you tomorrow. Isn't it? So it's a reminder. But there's no reminder because they never get old. There's no gray hair, there's no wrinkles. So if you're an old grandfather demigod, you look just like everybody else. So could you imagine how hard it would be? And Prabhupada said that our life members are a little bit like demigods, where they're pious and they want to enjoy. So both things are going on. They're pious, they worship Krishna, but they want to enjoy materially. And Prabhupada said that if your devotion is not perfect and you don't go back to Krishna, then you'll go to a higher planet and enjoy, if that's what you want. And you'll enjoy for so many celestial years, and then you'll come back and take up your devotional service. So if that's what you want, you'll get it. And somehow or other, they have this ability to enjoy, but without forgetting Krishna. Like, we don't have that. And Prabhupada said that, at least on Earth planet, when you're enjoying, you forget Krishna. But it doesn't seem like they forget. And you'll see later on in this story how Nalakuvera and Manigriva came to their senses. Even though initially they ignored Narada Muni, when he began speaking, they came to their senses because they're pious. Anyone want to go to the heavenly planets? Check it out. Well, we are told on your way back to Godhead, you'll get an offer. Check it out if you want. So you better make sure you don't want to go, because Maya will offer you a vacation on the heavenly planets. Before, it's a stopover on the way to Vrindavan. You can stop over in the heavenly planets. Check it out. Sunil's worried now. That doesn't sound. Why would Krishna do that? Krishna's always testing us, or in this case, Maya. We want to make sure you're getting out of the material world. My job is to keep you in the material world. So this is the last thing I can do, is offer you a place in heaven. Right? Hare Krishna. Now, Narada Muni, he understood what was going on. He knows. Trikalagya. And Narada Muni had affection for them and wanted to bless them. And you may think, why did he want to bless them? Well, they're the sons of Kuvera. They shouldn't be acting this way. But the question of why he wanted to bless them is, in one sense, not significant. Because whenever a devotee wants to bless another person, there doesn't have to be a good reason. Krishna doesn't look at the reason. Krishna just looks at the fact that the devotee wants to bless a person. And therefore, Krishna goes along with that. Isn't that interesting? Because really, externally, there's no reason that Nalakuvera and Manigriva should have gotten darshan of Krishna. There's no reason. And Krishna noted that. He said, there's absolutely no reason these two demigods should see me and get delivered. Only because Narada Muni wanted it, am I doing it? But there was no other reason. Krishna acknowledged that. There was no other reason. So there's a story. I don't know I can't remember the details, but I heard the story when I first joined ISKCON, there was a devotee. He must have joined a year or two before I did. And then he got in an accident. And he died. So he must have been in his early 20s. And the news came to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said that he went back to Godhead. And then Prabhupada said, although he wasn't qualified. And I don't remember the reason, but as far as I could surmise, the reason is Prabhupada's desire, that he wanted to bless his disciple. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, said Krishna's mercy goes where the devotee shows affection. So if the devotee wants to show affection to someone, then Krishna will give his mercy there. Isn't that wonderful? So even not only for you getting mercy, but also for you giving mercy. So if there's someone you want to show mercy to, you can ask Krishna to show mercy to them. You can pray. Isn't that amazing? You can pray to someone to show mercy. That's amazing. And we should. We should do that, shouldn't we? Yeah. And I've seen it that when a devotee likes someone and wants to make them a devotee, very often that person becomes a devotee just because of the affection that the devotee is showing. Just because that devotee wants it, it seems that Krishna is just going to take care of that person. Right? So that power is there even for us. And we may think, well, we're not very Krishna conscious. But one time, Prabhupada asked a devotee, please pray for me. And that shocked the devotee. Number one, why would Prabhupada need to be prayed for? And number two, why me? Why should I be the one? I mean, I'm just his disciple. And he said, I don't feel that Krishna will listen or I'm qualified. And Prabhupada said, Krishna will listen because you're a devotee. So you may not think you're great, but because you're in the disciplic succession and you're following the principles, that's your greatness. You may not have personal greatness. You may not think you have personal greatness, but your greatness is not your personal greatness, but it's your connection. And because you're connected, you can... Now you're a devotee because you're connected. And so you can pray. Yes? Try it. See if it works. So, Narada Muni's thinking. He's going through this thought process. This thought process is like this. They're in this holy river. They're bathing. They've lost their mind. They're intoxicated. They're drinking Varuni and some other kind of intoxication. And we have to stop this. And we have to bless them also. So he devised a plan, and then the reasoning is given. This was his... Well, as a side point, do you know Narada Muni is blonde hair and blue eyes and fair skin?
He's what?
Blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. He's never depicted that way in pictures, but the scripture describes him as blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. He's an expert musician. He was also expert in the military science. He was interested in martial arts, so he knew martial arts also. He knew Shastra. He knew music. Now, the interesting thing, this is very interesting. So Narada Muni is making this plan. He understands that what Nalakuvera Manigriva are doing, and then he starts coming to Mount Kailash. And while he's coming, he's chanting the glories of Krishna's pastimes. And one of the pastimes, glories he's chanting, is the Damodar Lila, because it's an eternal Lila. So he's singing a song about Damodar Lila on his way to become part of the Damodar Lila. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that funny? Isn't that transcendental? That's amazing. Now, he's chanting it, but then he's also realizing, I'm going to become part of it. So that even makes it more interesting, right? So what Narada, it's just like you go to a doctor and the doctor analyzes the problem. So Narada Muni analyzed the problem in Nalakuvera and Manigriva. It's pride. It was also intoxication. It was also illicit sex. He said, but you're not going to have sex all day and you're not going to be drunk all day, but your pride will continue. After the sex and intoxication, pride will continue. So he thought the real problem is the pride, and I have to curb their pride. So this was his plan. Now, he wanted to bless them, but a very interesting point comes up. Well, we'll talk about that. Yeah, well, we talked about this point before. We can talk about it now. So he decided, as we know, a devotee, if he curses, it's always a blessing. He won't just curse, because the only people who will curse lack compassion. If they curse with no blessing, they lack compassion. So sometimes you'll see, like some muni, some sadhu who's not a devotee will curse because they're angry. And just, okay, you take birth as this or that. But a devotee will never curse without some blessing there, right? So he wanted them to get love of Krishna, but he thought, if they get love of Krishna, now it's not going to work because they're not ready for it because they're proud. So we have to curb their pride. So the example was, the love of Krishna, or the blessing, was like sweet rice. And the curse was like pinching a baby to wake the baby up so you can give the baby sweet rice. So they had to pinch them first to wake them up, to reduce the pride so that they could eat the sweet rice. So we had talked about this. I think we had spoken about this maybe 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about why Krishna doesn't give you the Krishna consciousness or the advancement that you want. Why does it take so long? Why can't he just give the mercy? Why can't we just get love of God in a week or a month or 1 year? And we had discussed this very idea that he won't give it if you're not ready, because if you're not ready, you can't handle it. And so if you get love of Godhead before you're actually capable of digesting it, then it won't work. And that love will actually make you proud. So he's trying to curb their pride. If he gives them love, they could become proud that they're great devotees, because they're not qualified to handle the advancement. So you have to be qualified to handle the advancement. I think a lot of devotees don't think like that. They think, Krishna, just give me advancement. And Krishna's thinking, are you qualified to handle the advancement? Like, what will you do with it? Maybe you'll abuse people, because now you have so much spiritual power, you'll just abuse people. I'm more advanced than you, so I can abuse you. You have to do what I say. You have to surrender to me. I'm more Krishna conscious. Who knows? Yes?
What would that advancement be? Like, what would it look like? Because I would see symptom advancement would be that you'd feel more unqualified, because I think you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So what would be
It's kind of like, the way I look at it is like putting a big engine in a car that wasn't made for a big engine. So if you have to grow to be able to be a receptacle for the love. So I just give you the love, but your receptacle is not big enough, it'll crack. In other words, you didn't earn it. It just came in a way that you weren't qualified for it. So I know it doesn't make sense, because the natural thought is, well, if I have love, then I'm Krishna conscious. But what is meant here is, it's kind of like a paradox where you have, maybe it's like you plant a tree in a small pot and it breaks, the pot's too small, it can't handle it. So first you have to get a bigger pot. So first you have to become the bigger pot. If I plant this tree in a small pot, it'll crack, it won't hold it, and the tree will die. Something like that, yes. And it doesn't happen that way anyway. You won't get love if you're not qualified, yes.
But doesn't go together. If somebody is getting pure love, like running around for we was giving pure love, that automatically the recipient will become mature.
It doesn't seem so, based on, Prabhupada said this also. It's the same thing Narada Muni is saying. I want to give them love, but first they have to do the austerity to be capable of handling the love. If you achieve love through the stages, naturally you'll go through all the stages, that when you get love, you'll be qualified. But if it's just from bhajana kriya to prema or bhava, then it could be that you're not able to handle it. And so your false ego it seems to be a paradox, but it's kind of like the love is you're being given love, but you haven't spiritually advanced, so you're not able to handle it. Doesn't make sense, right? But it's like, oh wait, what's a good example? Your son is 19 years old and you give him $5 million. And in 3 months it's all gone. So you could say, well, he was wealthy, he had $5 million, but he wasn't qualified to have it because he didn't earn the money, he didn't learn how to manage the money. So he was a millionaire, but so it's something like that. At least that's the way Prabhupada explained it. Krishna won't give it to you because you won't know how to spend it. But this is generally doesn't happen that way. And generally, what Prabhupada's saying is, this is the answer. It won't happen that way. If a person's not qualified, they won't get it. So the point was, we're praying to Krishna, give me love, and Krishna's saying, I'll give it when you're qualified, when you're ready for it. And so Prabhupada was saying, if Krishna gave it to you, which he wouldn't, which kind of answers your question, because then it's not a question, because he wouldn't do it. But theoretically, if he did do it, we wouldn't be able to handle it. It's like, here's an aspirin. You can take 2, but a little kid can only take a half. And if you give 2 to a little kid, he can't handle it. It's going to have a bad effect. So, does that make sense? Like Krishna, he's not going to give it because we couldn't handle it. That's what Prabhupada's point. Love of God is like $5 million. You can't handle that, so he won't give it to you. But you want the $5 million, okay, become qualified for it, and then he'll give it to you. And so what Narada Muni is saying is, I want to give Nalakuvera Manigriva love, but I have to make them qualified for it, and now they're proud. So I have to make them undergo austerity by becoming trees, which will humble them. And they will remember as trees what they had done to deserve to be trees, and they'll be purified in Braj, and then when Krishna comes, they'll be ready for it. Does that make sense? Yes.
I was thinking, what's the relationship between surrendering and love? Because Prabhupada says, to surrender takes 1 minute.
Yeah.
You can surrender.
Yeah.
What's the relationship with surrendering and love, developing love? Is it the same thing?
It's the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
Well, you can surrender. It's the beginning, middle, and the end. Because surrender means accept the process, accept the instruction, accept the shastra, accept the guidance. And then as you progress in the process, your surrender will come naturally. Surrender, I sometimes say surrender is a synonym for love, because it means you're giving everything. So in the beginning you surrender, and maybe you give your life to Krishna, but it's not spontaneous. It's not so natural. It's more done because you know it's the right thing. That's the beginning. So you know it's the right thing and you do the process. By doing the process, it becomes natural. And then when it becomes natural, everything you do will be for Krishna. So therefore you can say you're fully surrendered. But you won't feel like you're surrendering in the sense of, here, I'll surrender my coconut to you. So now I'm missing something. I want this coconut, but if I give it to you, I don't have it. You won't feel it that way, but you feel like, here, please take this coconut. I want you to have it. And I won't feel like I'm losing anything. I'll feel like I'm gaining by giving you the coconut because I love you. I want you to have it. And now we'll take a coconut break because I'm not surrendered enough yet.
But in the Bhagavatam, Maharaj Katwanga, I think in the second canto, is given as example. He surrendered in 1 second, and then he attained Green, as far as I understood.
I don't know if he attained Prem. Do you have any reference for that? I was with Prabhupada, and this question was asked to him. Whoops. How long does it take to surrender? And it was interesting to be with Prabhupada because when he was asked that question, I thought, what's he going to say? How long does it take to surrender? At that point, I think I'd been a devotee 4 or 5 years, and I felt that I had surrendered something. I mean, I was living as a devotee, but I didn't really feel I was surrendered. And Prabhupada said, 1 moment. And then he explained what that meant. He said, if you accept Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita, once you accept, you're surrendered. Because what does that mean? No longer do I think I know the truth. Now I accept that Krishna knows the truth, so I've surrendered. Or if you knew you had 1 moment to live, you would surrender. You would make that choice now, Krishna, everything for you, right? So it is true, 1 moment you can surrender. And then that surrender continues throughout your life. That we're surrendering more. But that initial surrender was acceptance, wasn't it? Like in the beginning, the first initiation, right? Who wants to be initiated? Yeah, so people raise their hand. So Prabhupada gave a test. Who is Krishna? Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who are you? I am eternal servant. Okay, you can be initiated tomorrow. So that means you accepted that you're not God, Krishna's God, you're his servant, therefore you're surrendered, therefore you can become a disciple. You see? Yes?
Getting the love of God and being qualified, as we know, we are actually equally fallen and not qualified to even receive the love of God.
Yeah.
Talking about Baba and all those things are very hard. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just gave the 7 Sri Shastastika, right? That's the only verse he gave. So I think we need to actually follow this, try to follow the 7 Sri Shastastika first, because we are even not qualified for that. What to talk about being qualified to receive more love of God, like Krishna's mercy, and so. Because
I think we need to follow the 3rd verse. Really, the first 3 verses right now. Well, the other ones are manifest. The other ones are actually symptoms of higher stages.
Yes, symptoms of higher stages. So, but we are not even qualified for that, right? Because no.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell a story. All right. Prabhupada, if you read anything about the early days, especially with the devotees that were serving with Prabhupada in temple presidents or GBC or sannyasis, you'll see that basically whatever Prabhupada asked them to do, they did. Whatever it was, they didn't say, I don't know if I can do it, how do you do it, I'll think about it. I don't think that's a good idea, Prabhupada. You didn't see that. It just, Prabhupada said, get this land, and go to Mayapur and get some land. Okay. You know that story? There's a military story where, I don't know, maybe some of you know who was involved in this, but the general or the commander is saying, go do this. And the person says, how? He goes, get out. Next one, go do this. I don't know if I can do it. Get out. The next one, go do this. Yes, sir. And then he goes off. He says, you understand that attitude? So it was very much like that with the Prabhupada. Prabhupada would say, go do this. And we'd say, okay. We wouldn't analyze it. So there were many occasions where Prabhupada's disciples were, like you say, not pure, and people would notice that. They didn't have the proper etiquette. They weren't, they're on the stage of bhajana kriya, maybe an artha-nivritti, not very advanced. So they would bring that up to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, yes, I know, but they'll do anything I ask. And so Prabhupada used to call his devotees pure devotees because you'll do anything you do anything I ask, therefore you're a pure devotee.
It's an order, actually, because Prabhupada ordered, they do.
Yeah, and that was Prabhupada's one definition of pure devotee. So, and that's a definition of surrender. So if whatever Prabhupada's asking, you do, whatever your spiritual master, your temple president, you do, that's a broad definition of being pure devotee. Because your will now becomes their will. So in that sense, surrendered. And then, how long does it take for us to surrender? We've already surrendered. And how long did it take? It took about a 1/12 of a second, because one day we decided, I want to be a devotee. And that's how long it took.
But we have attachments and how to surrender, because we have so much of attachment.
Yeah, but that's like, okay, I'll give another example. You're sick, and I'm trying to get you to the hospital, and you say, no, I'm not going to the hospital. I'd rather die at home. I go, no, you have to go to the hospital. So we're fighting, right? So after a few days, I finally convince you to go to the hospital. So you go in the hospital. You surrender to the hospital. Now you're in the hospital, and they're saying, we have to stick this needle. And you go, no, don't stick this. So you have a ways to go to be totally surrendered to the hospital, but at least you surrendered in theory to the doctors, to the nurses, to the process. So that's the idea. You've surrendered to the process. You have your free will to give yourself to the process. But how quickly you advance is not up to you. That's up to the mercy of Krishna. So that's where we get sidetracked, because we see a devotee and we say, oh, he's not very advanced. And Prabhupada's saying, he's a pure devotee. Right? In 1977, then Prabhupada left, and there were 11 devotees. And some people were saying they're pure devotees, some people were saying they're not pure devotees. How can they be gurus? They've only been devotees 7, 8, 10 years. They're young men. So Prabhupada wasn't seeing pure devotee the way some of us were seeing it. He was saying, well, are they surrendered to me and my mission? Because let's say they were more advanced, but not surrendered to Prabhupada. That would have created more problems. In that sense, they could be pure devotees, but not the kind of pure devotee that Prabhupada needed. So there was a lot of confusion. I think maybe there's still some confusion about that. That's a level of surrender and a level of pure devotion.
I read one of your articles regarding the standard of devotees, when they become too rigid, elevated, they start to have one of your articles, saying that when they're too elevated, they tend to actually become too radical.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you say about this kind of devotees? Are they elevated, or what happened to them actually?
As you advance, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about it in Madhurya Kadambini. He said that there are obstacles to devotion or anarthas that come as a result of devotional service. So I was very, very enthusiastic when I was a young devotee. I'm still enthusiastic, but those days I was. It was utsahan mai, full of young, fanatical enthusiasm, right? So, and I don't say I was anyway, I had some ability and some tendency to take charge of things, to be in charge. I could do that. And I didn't mind doing it. So I was made a temple president. Now, if you've studied any social psychology, you'll find that even in experiments, if they just say, Prayag, we're going to do a mock experiment, Sunil's a prisoner, you're the warden. And, he'll start controlling him, even if it's just an experiment. They've done experiments like this, and we'll have a plate of cookies. They did an experiment like that. You're in charge, he's your subordinate, and they brought a plate of cookies, and the person in charge ate more cookies than the subordinates. And it was just a play, just an experiment. So you're advancing, you're sincere, you're surrendered, and you become puffed up, thinking, I'm the temple president. No, it's pride. Unless you're proud of your spiritual master. But not fanatically, no. Pride in the sense of controlling, that I can control you. Do what I say. I'm in charge. Thinking myself superior in some way. Right? So I've elevated myself, I've qualified myself, and because of that qualification, I become proud. So then the advancement produces an obstacle, produces an anartha.
That means our level of advancing, there is obstacle all the time.
Potentially, depending on you. But if you don't become proud, there won't be an obstacle. Potential obstacle. Now you're in charge, people respect you. Now will you become proud or will you become a servant? Will you feel that now I'm in charge, I'm below everyone, and my position is to serve them? Or will you think, now I'm in charge, I'm above everyone? Now, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, when you're a pure devotee, you can never, ever, ever possibly think you're above anybody. You will always think you're below. So it doesn't matter your external position. Your external position will not affect the way you think. For us, our external position affects the way we think. Oh, I'm temple president. I'm special. I'm sannyasi. I'm GBC. I can, just go right to the front and move everybody aside. Get out of the way. Here I come. And when it's time for prasadam, I should be served first. And if I'm served second, something's wrong with this temple, I'm never coming back again. I can think that way, right? But an advanced devotee will never think I'm anything but servant. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted to instill that culture so much that as you advanced in the Gaudiya Math, you would become more of a servant, and when you became a sannyasi, then your service was to serve prasadam. That's what the sannyasi said, to show that as you elevate yourself, you become more of a servant. So if you're advanced, that's what it's impossible for you ever to think, I'm anything other than a servant, if you're advanced. And if you're not, it's very easy to think you're special. Because your eternal identity is servant, and you can't forget that if you're Krishna conscious. But if you're not, you can forget it. Right? Just give you a position, some people to control. Now you forget, I'm servant. Right? Yes?
We're told that the two basic principles are never forget Krishna and always remember Krishna. So, and you mentioned that demigods, even in their enjoyment, they never forget Krishna.
Yeah.
So, in the case of Nalakuvera and Manigriva, I understand because of their usual wish, they were bewildered. But for the others, devotees never aspire for demigods or higher planets because of the fall down. So, how to understand that? Because if in their enjoyment they never forget Krishna, then they're sort of like perfect.
If in their enjoyment they never forget Krishna, they're sort of perfect. The way to understand that, no, they're not perfect, because if they were perfect, they wouldn't want to enjoy, right? So, rasa vajam nasopiyasya. So if if you get to that stage of rasa, ruchi, then you become detached from material enjoyment. But because they're so pious and predominantly situated in goodness, pious people, like, mafia, they'll make some money and donate it to the Catholic Church. It's just, that's the way piety works. So they're sinful, they're criminals, but, before they go out to do their crime, they'll go to the church and do the... Isn't it? Something like that, So religion and impiety, they go well together. Look at the Christian Crusades. They were killing people. You accept the Bible? Okay. Then give me your head. I'm going to chop it off. So, doing something very sinful, but so-called remembering God. But the proper understanding is that as you become Krishna conscious, then you become detached from that tendency to enjoy. But if you're very pious, you see that in India, right? For us as young devotees in America, there were very few Indians in America when I was joined in 1970. Very few. In certain cities there were Indians, but Los Angeles, it'd be like 3 or 4 Indians would come to the temple. Now you come to the Sunday feast, it's like half or more maybe, I don't know. So we didn't have much experience with Indians, and we thought Indians from India, they're Hindu, they're Krishna conscious. That's what we thought. Well, you're an Indian, you're Hindu, you're not going to eat meat, you're not going to do this and that. We thought they would be like us. And then as we got to know them, we saw that they weren't like us. They liked movies, they liked to go to restaurants, they liked to live in nice homes, drive nice cars, And to us, as young devotees, these were all things which you don't do if you're not Krishna conscious, right? If you're Krishna conscious, you don't do them. So, but somehow or other, they could do it, and they'd still come to the temple every Sunday and do service. Whereas when a Western devotee did that, then it's like you don't see him for a while, sometimes, isn't it? Like he's working hard to get his big house, and he's going to school. Because they have their grounding is more religious, more pious. Where the Westerners' grounding was more materialism. So they have that grounding. So even though they're doing all these other things, they don't lose that grounding because they understand that in order to get my material success, I have to worship God. I have to give money. I have to be pious. I have to do puja, samskar. It's ingrained in their consciousness. So that was very confusing for us, very bewildering. We couldn't figure that out because if we did that, it's like we wouldn't spend $100,000 on a wedding. We would spend $100 on a wedding because why spend more than that? It's a waste of money. I could buy books and distribute them, right? And it's just a wedding, and it's just that's material life, and why spend money? That was our mood, right? I don't even know if we spent $100 on a wedding. We just basically spent money on the fire sacrifice. And that didn't even cost $100. So, that's the difference. Now, as long as we're devotees, even though we're contaminated, we're in a better position. But if we give up devotional service, then we'll tend to fall back into the position we came from. And if they give up devotional service, they'll fall back into the position they came from, which tends to be more pious. That's a generalization. It may not be true for everyone. In every case, results may vary. Right? Does that make sense? You had something?
Yeah, I was thinking, Srila Prabhu Swami is mentioning Lila citation, we can judge our spiritual advancement or elevation to pure devotional service if we are not anymore attached to Gyan and speculative knowledge coming from monistic philosophy or karma, personal motivation. This we can check if we are not anymore attached to
material advancement and the desire for liberation, or engaging in devotional service to gain something material, or engaging in devotional service to become free from suffering, as opposed to engaging in devotional service just to please Krishna. Yeah. So demigods may not only be trying to please Krishna, but obviously they've got to that position through piety. And it's like one of the things I've noticed in America, and maybe in other countries, but a lot of Indians become devotees in America. They're not devotees when they come. But even sometimes the ones who are devotees and come there, America is an opportunity for them to accumulate wealth and live nicely that they don't have in India, because middle-class America is like upper middle class America is like really high-class India. So, and they are educated and they get good jobs and they make good money. So for them to live like they would live in India, in America, it doesn't make sense. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like there's just this advantage. If you get a job at Microsoft, you'll probably start out at like $100,000, $120,000 a year. You can live quite nicely on that. And if your husband makes that, you can live really well. You can live very nicely. So it would be hard not to live that nicely. So I noticed that. And I'm not saying that for Indians. For anybody making that much money, it's naturally you want to spend it and enjoy it. But even more so for Indians, because for them it's such an opportunity that they couldn't have in India, or very few could have. So it's not easy. But you could apply this verse to them and say, but at least when you serve Krishna, do it purely. Even if you want to enjoy. At least don't engage in service to elevate yourself materially. You can work hard to elevate yourself materially, but don't go to the temple and pray to Krishna. Don't chant Hare Krishna for material elevation. Right? Okay. I think we have a question here. Is the thought of being wanted, is that also on the master level? Many times being a woman, I feel that I should be felt wanted by others. How to understand this? So this is an interesting question. She's saying, sometimes I feel I want to be wanted, or wanted means appreciated, acknowledged. It's a woman saying, as a woman, I feel like I want to be wanted, to be loved, appreciated, honored, be shown affection. Is that, and the question is, how to understand this? That is human psychology. So I think we have to understand, as conditioned souls with a natural human psychology, some things just come along with it. And as long as you don't become obsessed, it's normal, everybody wants to be appreciated. But if your life is dedicated to being appreciated, that is not good. And if you don't appreciate other devotees, so you want to be appreciated, but you appreciate others, I think that is just to be seen as natural. Now, problem is, if it becomes pride. If it's not pride is the problem. What if I have a nature where I feel inspired if I'm appreciated? It doesn't have to be pride. If it's out of pride, it's a problem. If it's just out of relationship, or I need affection, or I want my spiritual master to recognize me because that inspires me, that I know that he's happy for what I've done, that's different. Now you could say absolutely on an absolute level, you should only want to appreciate others, but from the level of a woman, it's natural to want to be appreciated, honored, and I think every human being wants some level of respect and honor. and even if I told you, let's say I give you another answer, okay? Let me give you a 1970 answer to your question. You shouldn't want any appreciation. You shouldn't want any respect. It's complete Maya. All right? But even if I give you that answer, you have to deal with where you're at right now. And as a woman, as a conditioned soul, you'll want affection. You'll want affection from your children, your husband, your mother, your father. That's natural. So, is that an impediment to pure devotional service? Doesn't have to be. It's just something that, it's like you need to eat. So eat what you need. And so these are certain necessities we have: eating, sleeping, mating, offending, and relationships. So it all depends on what you mean by that. If it's a psychological problem, yeah. If it's born out of pride, yes, that'll be a problem. Yeah.
Sometimes, like, the side of appreciation also, like other kind of desire that you relate, like as you said, like for example, I relate it with Maya, like when I want appreciation or I feel like I desire that someone even acknowledge my activity.
Yeah.
I kind of switch and I'm like, okay, that's Maya, so I kind of get fanatical and I'm like, I'm gonna chant like
Oh.
more around. Like I kind of, and I became like weird.
Oh, yeah. She's saying, I have to repeat for them, she's saying, sometimes when she feels like she wants appreciation, it really bothers her, and so she chants more rounds, and then you become weird because some things are natural. It's like let's say it's 7 in the morning and you're starving, and you're just like, you didn't eat much yesterday, and you're chanting your rounds, and you're thinking, I'm such a bad person because I'm starving, and it's 7 o'clock, and it's 2 hours before breakfast, and I shouldn't be starving. Okay. And I should tolerate it. But what if you're so hungry you just leave the temple? I have to eat something. I'm going crazy, Right? So just go eat something and come back to the temple, right? So I think sometimes we have to just acknowledge our conditioned nature. Yes, I want appreciation. Is that the ultimate goal? No. Is that where I'm at now? Yes. Am I a human being? Yes. Especially for a woman, is that natural? Yes. So I accept that. And I know that as I advance in Krishna consciousness, I'll want to appreciate more and more other people. So it's an acknowledgement. I find something very interesting. I don't know, this might sound counterintuitive to you, but I find that a lot of times, if you have something that you know is an obstacle, or you feel it may be an obstacle, it's really good to just face it and deal with it, and allow yourself to just acknowledge it. Yeah, this is how I feel, just acknowledge it, and deal with it. And sometimes you have to go with it. It's just, and sometimes by acknowledging and facing it, it kind of goes away. It's like it's a reality for you that you can't run away from. So acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. You can't. You can't, because it's inherent within the human psyche until you're completely purified. Even one devotee was saying at Prabhupada's Vyas Puja, he made a really interesting point. You know how Prabhupada's godbrothers, most of them didn't really appreciate what Prabhupada did. And could you imagine that you're going to do this mission your spiritual master wants, and it's really important, and it's a top priority on his list, and nobody's doing it, and you're the only one doing it, and not one godbrother or godsister encourages you? How would you feel? So once a devotee told Prabhupada, I'm discouraged, and she gave the reasons, and Prabhupada said, you don't have a right to be discouraged. If anyone has a right to be discouraged, it's me. Because look what I did, and I didn't get any help from my godbrothers. So you don't have a right to be discouraged. I have the right to be discouraged. So the devotee was saying in the last days, Prabhupada was apologizing if I've offended you in my preaching, because Prabhupada said some things about his godbrothers not fulfilling the desires or all the desires of Bhaktisiddhanta. And they were instructive for us. So he said, if I've offended you, please forgive me if sometimes in preaching I may have said something against you. And then they said something like, no, you didn't offend us, and you've done the greatest work, and we all appreciate it. And then Prabhupada said, thank you. And the devotee made a comment, and I didn't even think of this, but it addresses your question. The devotee said, I could see Prabhupada's human side, that he actually appreciated, that his godbrothers appreciate what he did. It made him feel good that finally I was appreciated. So, you might think, well, is that a conditioned response under the modes of nature? What it is? It's just, I think it's just inherent within the living being to want or need some verification that what you're doing it's the right thing. And it's just, these were his brothers, and they never acknowledged it. So just for your brother to acknowledge you've done something good, thank you. Finally, So even Prabhupada, you could say, appreciated appreciation. And so many of us, we wanted Prabhupada to know what we were doing because we wanted to be appreciated. Not out of false ego, but we wanted Prabhupada to be happy with what we're doing. So we wanted to get that kind of recognition. So that's very human. So I don't think we should go crazy when we see human qualities that we have. We should just be concerned if those human qualities are interfering with our devotional service. Like you're obsessive to the point where she gets acknowledged and you don't, and you start telling everybody how bad she is. Now that would be a problem, right? But she gets acknowledged and you're thinking, why not me? I was helping her. That's kind of normal, right? Now, if you're very elevated, you'd probably think, I'm glad nobody acknowledged me. I'm glad they acknowledged her and not me. That's a more elevated state. And someday you'll come to that state. So I don't want acknowledgement. I don't want anybody to know what I've done. But to want it, it's human. So I think that would be crazy, to go crazy that you want some acknowledgement, or appreciation, which is just human. That would be wrong. Now, to understand that in a higher stage of devotional service, I won't want it, that's fine, but you shouldn't go crazy now. That's like saying, I read that the Goswamis only had a little buttermilk every other day, and I'm like really freaking out today because I've already had 2 meals. And I might even have something later tonight, God forbid, which would really make me fallen compared to them, right? And now I'm sitting tonight eating something because I'm hungry because I didn't eat much for lunch, and I'm sitting eating it and I'm just beating myself up. Why are you eating? You're so fallen. Those swamis didn't eat, they ate every other day. They forget to eat. How much time did Thakur have to eat? He was chanting 22 hours and he had to sleep and eat. It's like I slept 6 hours. I woke up totally depressed. That was 6 hours I wasted. Thakur only slept 2. Sometimes he forgot to sleep. I'm so bad. You know what I mean? So you could apply that principle to anything. We're conditioned souls. So don't be too hard on yourself. The problem is if your service is motivated primarily by the desire to be appreciated. If your service is motivated primarily by the desire to be appreciated, that's a problem. Having a need to be appreciated is normal, but if you're predominantly motivated to be appreciated, that's why you're doing it. Why are you going on a book distribution? Why are you trying so hard? Because I want to be number one, so everyone will recognize me as the number one book distributor. That's going to be a problem. Why are you trying so hard to do this? Because I want to become the temple president. And if I succeed at this, I'll be appreciated and they'll nominate me. You see? Does that make sense?
Still, Krishna purifies when you have transcendental desire, no? Like,
If your desire is transcendental, but that's not transcendental.
yeah, but still.
The desire to distribute books for the wrong reason is not transcendental. It can get you going for a while, but it can't keep you going. There's a book called "What Got You There Won't Keep You There." So that may get you to number one, but it won't keep you as number one. Because when you become proud, Krishna will say, okay, fun is over, and you won't be successful. So in the ideal environment or ideal temple, you would be well enough trained that wouldn't be your motive, to be recognized. You would know, no, I'm doing this service to please Krishna, not to be recognized. Now, at the end of the day, they're going to read the scores, and they read my score, and I was number one, and I feel good. That's more like human nature, but it's not why you did it. But if it's why you did it, then you have a problem. Because your motive it's not pure. My motive was to please Prabhupada, but now they read the scores, I'm number one, so, I'm Hare Krishna, thank you. But it felt good, right? That's human nature. But I'm smart enough to know that even though I'm number one, don't let it go to my head. Even though it feels good to be number one, don't let it go to my head, because if I become proud, Krishna will take away my power.
So devotional life should be unmotivated, right?
It should be motivated by the right reason, yeah. Not by pride. Yeah. To please Guru and Krishna, that's the motivation. So, if that's your motivation, you're good. Now, if it's not your motivation and you recognize it, then it's good that you recognize it. And then just face it and deal with it and think about it and say, okay, this is not good. But I recognize this is my motivation. And kind of, deal with it. And then ask yourself, why do I so much need the appreciation? What is lacking in me? What am I missing in my life? You know what I mean? There's in the 12-step program, they have mantras like if let's say it's alcohol. They'll have mantras where you talk to yourself when you want to drink, and you're talking to yourself, what am I thinking is going to fulfill me in this drink that God can't fulfill? Something like that, like what am I looking for in appreciation that's not there in the holy name, that's not there in pure devotional service? So you deal with it, you talk to yourself about it, you think about it, you don't run away from it, you don't kill yourself because you have it. And you can't just get rid of it either. You can't just, okay, I'm going to decide to get rid of it. Most people can't do that. But you can process it and think it through. And then by thinking it through, maybe get a little bit of a higher inspiration to see, well, actually it'd be better that I just distributed the books purely. That would really fulfill me. And maybe you realize maybe I'm lacking something in my relationships, or I'm lacking something somewhere within myself. I'm insecure. I don't believe in my own capabilities, so I want other people to know how great I am. That makes me feel, you kind of think about it. So by facing it, you understand it better. Does that make sense? Because a lot of times when we need appreciation, it's because there's something in us that we are insecure about. By insecure, I mean I don't feel I'm appreciable. So I go out of my way to get appreciated because I don't appreciate myself. So if I don't appreciate myself, and then you come up to me after class and say, that was a great class, that makes me feel good. And then I'm going to come tomorrow and give a class hoping that you're going to appreciate me. And actually I'm going to make the class so good that you will appreciate me. So now my motive is to become appreciated. Speaker, I doubt that I'm a good teacher. I doubt that I'm a good devotee. So I need other people to say it. Does that make sense? So you want to look at all these things. I'm not saying that's your case, but I'm saying you look at all these things and see what the problem is, rather than just try to this is horrible, a pure devotee shouldn't want this. And then the other side is you're kind on yourself to realize as a human being, yes, I have these desires. So you say, yeah, okay. there's something lacking in me. That is why I want to be appreciated. And you start to go through the process and say, okay, it's a reality. It's just where I'm at. I don't have to commit suicide. It's just, right? This is where I'm at. And then you start asking, you say, maybe I'm just not appreciating myself. Maybe I'm putting myself down unnecessarily. That could be, right? What am I lacking that I need other people to glorify me? That sometimes there's a process which you can do, which is to write down things that you've succeeded at doing, just to give that appreciation to yourself, to acknowledge that maybe you're putting yourself down when actually you are very successful. Does that make sense? Does that make success? It makes success and sense. Yes, and then yeah.
But there must be like a balance of self-doubting in a way that we can learn and improve. No?
A balance of self-doubt.
Like, doubting about ourselves.
For example?
Like, for example, you were saying I doubt that my class is good, or I doubt
Okay. If it's done, that's a very good question. She's saying, but there should be some level of self-doubt. Okay, so there's two ways you can have self-doubt. One which will uplift you and one which will degrade you. So I can have self-doubt to such a degree that I just stop giving classes because I think, I'm not good. I'm not good at it. Now you might think I'm good at it, but I don't think I'm good at it. And that's going to destroy me. The other self-doubt is, could I make it better? So I think I could make this class better. I doubt that I'm doing as best I can. That's an empowering thought, because then I think, how can I do it better? So there's no negativity. I'm not putting myself down. There's just acceptance of what is. This is how it is. It's not a judgment. You see the difference? The first one's a judgment. There's something wrong with me. Therefore, I should stop. The second one is just an objective analysis. It's not a judgment. The class could be better. This is what was good. This is what was bad. So, this self-judgment that I'm bad, then it's destructive. And that's coming from the mode of ignorance. Right? Oh, I want appreciation. Therefore, I'm a bad person. No. Let's objectify it. I want appreciation. So is it good? Is it bad? How can I use this? Maybe I need to appreciate myself. Maybe I need to appreciate other devotees. Maybe I'm better than I think I am. Maybe I'm doubting myself. Let's look at this. So in that way you try to improve yourself. Whereas the negative side is, oh, I'm so bad. I'm so horrible. I'm so proud. Which all may be true, but you can do it in a positive way. I'm bad. Let's be good. I'm proud, let's learn how to be humble. It doesn't depress you. Like, have you ever seen a devotee and they're so vulnerable? Oh, you should do this. Oh, Prabhu, I'm the worst one to do that. You just can't believe how fallen I am. And they're all smiles and they're, blissfully engaged in devotional service. Have you seen that before? Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? At least materially. But they're just accepting that's how they are and they're dealing with it. And they're facing it. It's not a problem. But when you think that those things are your identity, and that's and you can't do anything about it, or you think because you have those qualities, you're a horrible person, and Krishna doesn't like you, and your guru doesn't like you, and nobody likes you, and then that's the problem. Does that make sense? Yes.
Prabhu Swami mentioned in the introduction Guya Makyati Prichati.
Yes.
Exchange. Guya Makyati Prichati. Some they say Guya Makyati Prichati should be done only with the pure devotee, meaning with the spiritual master.
Mm-hmm.
But Srila Prabhupada explained that in general it should be done with devotees.
Yes.
So I studied also in communication seminars that it's good to have this Guya Makyati Prichati between devotees, that they reflect themselves, they help each other to reflect themselves about their And by doing it like
Yeah.
psychotherapy, it's helping them to acknowledge
Yeah.
themselves that, okay, they come to realize the bad thoughts that are gone, and then they are helping them not to be negative about them,
Yeah.
but to become positive.
Yes.
We are humans with feelings.
Yeah.
So
Acceptance.
Acceptance. So I think this
Sharing.
sharing
Yeah.
is quite.
It's essential. It's actually essential. Yeah, I have to tell them what you said. He's saying that sometimes these problems we have, we need to discuss them with devotees, share them openly, be vulnerable, not hide them, and have friends that'll listen. And it's not just sharing is just done with advanced devotees, but we also, that's true, advanced devotees, but you also need peer association. You need both, right? So I've spoken about this before, and I think it's one of the most valuable things we can do as devotees is discuss our challenges. And you want to do something really interesting. It's very powerful. If you have a problem, ask yourself what you would tell somebody who had that problem. How would you advise them? Let's say if your problem is I always want to be appreciated, or I want to show off, or whatever, I want to be acknowledged. Then I ask you, okay, if that were my problem, what would you tell me? And sometimes you come up with amazing answers. You know why? Because if you're thinking it's my problem, you're not thinking it's your problem, you get more clarity. So you can answer it without all your emotional issues. And so I was just listening to a coach who's one of the top coaches in the world. Not by his judgment, but he was voted by associations. And he said he does that a lot of times. When someone has a problem, he'll ask them, if you were to advise someone who had this problem, what would you say? He said, quite often the answer that they give is better than the answer he could have given. I guess because it's personal. Something to think about. If let's say you and her are talking, and she says, I have this problem. When I go out on book distribution, my only motive is to be number one because I want everyone to appreciate me. So then you say, if I had that problem, what would you tell me? How would you tell me to deal with it? So you're getting her to solve her own problem. Or I have a friend, Akura Prabhu, some of you may know. And he asked it this way. If you were a world expert on appreciation and pride, what would you say? Like if you're a world authority on, if you say I'm proud, and I say, you are a world authority on humility, what would you say to this question? How to deal with pride? And it's very interesting, because the point of asking this question is we really know the answer. We really know the answer. We just haven't, like you're saying, we haven't talked about it. So once you start talking about it, see, a lot of times in this exchange, she's talking to you about her problem. So she's talking about her problem. While she's talking about it, sometimes she'll solve the problem, and all you did was listen. And just say, thank you so much, you helped me so much. And you realized that all you did was listen. You understand that you helped her by not saying anything. And listen, you said, thank you, you helped, thank you so much for listening, that really helped me. So sometimes guyati akyati prichtati is simply listening to somebody. And then the second principle is keeping it confidential, which means don't tell anybody. That includes your wife or husband. Husbands are not so bad because they don't listen anyway. But wives listen, so that's more dangerous telling them. My wife will say something, and she says, don't tell anybody. And I don't even remember, a minute after she says it anyway. I said, don't worry, I forget most of what you say anyway. But you understand the principle. If somebody's speaking to you in confidence, then confidence means you don't tell one person, because we lose trust if we tell somebody, and it's a challenge, because most of us don't know what it means to be confidential. Is that okay? We went overtime. So I give a class every Monday at 2:45 on the stages of bhakti, and we're up to the stage of ruchi and asakti. So if you want to come, it's at my house, and it's at 2:45. I can give you directions.
At your home or here?
At my house here, yeah. Not here, at my house. Here's too much trouble for me. I have to come all the way over here. I don't know how many people are free during the day. You go up Bhaktisiddhanta Road as you're going to Yoga Pith, and about halfway there you see a petrol station. You know the petrol pump?
Maybe I can take them tomorrow from the petrol. I can pick them up at the petrol stand, whoever wants to come.
Yeah. Okay, whoever wants, you just go. Okay, Aditi will be at the petrol pump. You just go up like you're going to Yoga Pith, and about halfway there, you will see a petrol pump. And I lived the street before, and she knows where it is. But in case you come late, there's a street right before the petrol pump. You just walk up the street about 40 yards, the first house on the left on the top floor.
It's like the United States.
No. It's this side. He's the other side.
When we come from the petrol pump from Yoga Pit, and then we turn left. The first it's a small way, it's not a road.
What is the topic? Can you repeat it?
We'll be talking about ruchi and asakti. How to get there. Whoa. Okay. Hare Krishna.
How to go there? Rickshaw or anything?
It's on the main road. When you go to Yoga Pit, the petrol pump is on the main road from here on the right side.
Sri Lalita Maha. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, but it's before Yoga Pit. Petrol pump is much before Yoga Pit. From here.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. So we'll broadcast tomorrow at 2:45 India time if you want to come. And if you don't know where my house is, you just go onto Facebook at 2:45. Oh. If you go into Facebook, what do you have to do if you're not my friend? How does it work?
You just go to your page and it's publicly viewable.
Oh, you go to my page. You go to Facebook and then you put in Mahatma Das, and then there I am. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Lalita Maha Tripura Sundari ki jai. All glories to Guayakil. Sarva Shakti's house. Yeah.